It has been recognized that micro, small and medium enterprises, MSMEs, play a vital role in economic development, as they have been the primary sources of job, employment creations and output growth, not only in less developed countries, but also in developed countries. The contribution of MSMEs to Nigerian economies as development cannot be overemphasized. However, the disruption caused by the COVID-19 pandemic on the country's ailing economy has no doubt affected the MSME space, severely leading to a revenue shortfall. The impact of the crisis also differed across sectors. Surveys results shows that COVID-19 affected companies in the services sector more severely, particularly those in accommodation and food services, followed by non-food, manufacturing, retail and wholesale, and travel and transport. Micro, small and medium-sized enterprises are overrepresented in most of these sectors. As the country's economy experiences a gradual economic rebound in the face of the second wave of the pandemic, experts say it is expedient for small business owners to reposition businesses for growth, either post-COVID or in the new normal, by leveraging on the advantage of technology to remain in business. Well, joining me live in our Lagos studio to speak on this and, of course, how we can reposition MSMEs for growth in the COVID era, in the second wave, and, of course, post-COVID-19 era. He's the founder of MSMEs Africa, Mr. Seye Olurotimi. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Olurotimi.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me today.
I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Despite the traffic in Lagos and the fuel queues, we need to mention that, really.
That again.
I had to go rush fill my tank earlier.
I woke up to that news this morning and I was like, what is happening again? We all know the impact of this on MSMEs. You know that when fuel prices increase, what it means is that the cost of production goes up.
Exactly.
And of course, it affects the bottom line at the end of the day. But thank God they said it's not going to take effect.
Yes. But Nigerians, for who we are, you know that rush. Yes. I'm looking at the weekend and seeing what's going to play out over the weekend with regards to this.
I really don't want to imagine. But of course, the panic, whatever would set in, everybody wants to fill their tank. But even if you fill your tank, for how long is it going to last you?
And
of course, subsidy has been removed. So what it means is that fuel price will always be a function of what obtains in the international market. So whether we like it or not, first subsidy has been reduced. We should expect that the oil prices would go up because we expect that the price of crude will go up in the international market.
That's the reality.
It's the reality. So costs are shooting up.
Let's go back to our talk. Really, one way or the other, this affects all spheres of life.
Definitely.
But let's now look at you, first of all, in person, MSMEs Africa. I was reading through and I saw that this is a platform for micro, small businesses. You've been into a lot. I can go on, even a mentor at Tony Elumelu Foundations.
Yes,
I've really done a lot. Checked it. Now, tell us a little bit about MSME Africa and what you stand for.
Okay, so basically MSME Africa is a multifaceted platform, but everything we do is around enterprise development, is around micro, small, medium enterprises. We have a news platform that reports news in the world and within the MSME ecosystem.
Okay.
We also have a quarterly event called MSME Dialogue, where we bring in experts to come talk around issues that affect micro, small, medium enterprises. We also do capacity development. We provide a lot of insight into what is happening in the ecosystem. And of course, we try to partner with organizations that are also doing things to support MSMEs. So basically, we're just out to develop the capacity of MSMEs, provide information to them, and ensure that they thrive and grow.
I don't know which of the figures we are going to follow, but I know that we have more than 40 million. Maybe that would be safe to say. Some say more than 41 MSMEs, right?
Okay, so the figure that we're working with is 41.5 million, but that figure dates back to 2018. Because that was a figure from a survey conducted by SMEDAN and National Bureau of Statistics.
Yes.
So as at 2018-2017, we had 41.5 MSMEs. But I can assure you that today we should be looking at something like 45 million thereabout.
Because you can see that everyone wants to get independent and do business. I think I need to also get on this side. But let's now look at COVID-19. On this show, we've talked so very much about COVID, how it has affected businesses, big businesses. Even as a company, COVID has affected us. So now, talk about small businesses. What do you really, how have they fared all through 2020? All of the lockdowns, the NSAS, we can go on and on. Tell us.
I mean, it's actually not been rosy. That's just the truth. The impact and the effect on MSMEs has actually been very, very serious. You know, MSMEs don't have what I call shock absorbers, so to say, to withstand a lot of things that the big corporates could withstand. And so COVID-19 came, people now have to stay back at home. A lot of them don't have the infrastructure to run their services virtually. So it affected the way they made money, right? So people could not make money, people could not meet their obligations. A lot of them have debt that they could not pay right now. Some of them have had to lay off their staff because they could not afford to keep them in their employment. So, and then of course, recession came again. We just got out of it. So it's actually been a lot of issues. MSMEs are grappling with a lot because they've not been able to meet up with a lot of obligations that they have to meet up with.
One way or the other, we see a lot of support coming from all angles. Yes, we see it. We see it. Yes. We see them on paper. It's written in paper. We see them, and it's everywhere on the social media and all of that.
It's everywhere.
Now, you are a player in this sector, an active player. How would you assess all of these interventions? Okay, should we stay with just the CBN now? Because I know the CBN, there was also one partnership with NASA.
There is a lot.
How enlightened, how educated are people? Are they taking advantage of all of these opportunities?
Okay, so let me start on a note of commendation, because it's not every time we want to just look at fault with what is happening. So I would probably want to commend the Office of the Vice President, the Minister of Trade and Investment, that's Chief Adebayo, and then the Minister of State in that ministry, the Minister of State in that ministry, Mrs. Miriam Katagun. So I've seen a lot of intervention from the government. You talked about the CBN intervention. That's the 50 billion targeted credit scheme. Yeah. And I say it's a good one, but what happened within 2 months, 49 million was already given out. And we say we have 41 million MSMEs in Nigeria. You want to ask how many of them actually got out of that fund. And of course, the portal has just been opened some 2-3 days ago for another batch. Then we have the one that I really love. That's the MSME Survivor Fund. And why do I like it? Apart from, there is a scheme that pays some money to artisans and some other people. Good. At least just have something to stay with. But the part that I like is the payroll support scheme and the guaranteed offtake.
True.
The payroll support scheme will ensure that you are able to keep your employees in your employment, because the support scheme ensures that they help you to pay your employee for a period of about 3 or 6 months thereabout. And so you are not laying off your staff. That's a good one. And that will ensure, of course, the impact will be felt on the economy. Then the second track, the other track is the guaranteed offtake scheme, which ensures that if you produce, they will give you funds to produce within the country and also provide a market for you. So you are not thinking of who to sell to. There is a guaranteed offtake. They buy it off from you and take it to the people that need it. So those are commendable. We have the Youth Investment Fund that support ideas from youth that are less than 35 years. Wonderful. But the truth is, how many of these people actually are these things getting to? 41 million is the figure we're playing with. How many people are getting these interventions? And then when you have intervention that is centered around money, I have a lot of reservations towards that. I will always say, when you give people money, try to train them, try to let them know how to manage business. We complained about the trader money and the market money, that people that got those funds, even though small, could not pay back. Why? Because they weren't trained how to manage businesses. So I would say for every intervention that we are bringing up, let's also create a part of it that trains people on how to manage business, so that when they get the money, they don't squander it, they don't waste it. They already have knowledge of how to manage businesses. You talked about Tony Elumelu Foundation, which I mentor for. The good thing about that fund is that you have $5,000, but you're not going to touch that money until you've gone through a training for 1 year. You'll be trained on how to run businesses. You'll also be assigned to a mentor that will actually make sure that by the time you get the money, you are well equipped to make use of it. So whatever interventions we are bringing up that is not centered around capacity building and enlightening people on how to manage businesses, I think it might not just be sustainable.
Now, ease of doing business is something that is very key. And sincerely, this government, let's give it to Pebek and all that they've been doing. Yes, not 100%, but at least we see that sincerity of purpose. We see that commitment to wanting to make the environment easier. Now, for the players, what's your assessment of PEBEC. What do you think? Are they really doing well? Is doing business easier than it used to be in Nigeria?
Okay, so the ease of doing business, we moved from, on that ease of doing business index, we moved from, I think, from 146 to 131, I think I'm right. So we moved 15 places, commendable, okay. Right?
Yeah.
That means we're doing something right. But when I also look at the fact that the total number of countries being compared are just 190. So I'm saying, why am I 131 out of 190? Why can't I be 80? Why can't I be 70? Yeah, you don't have to get there. You don't get there overnight. We could probably still do better. So PEBEC is doing their bit, but I think they can still do a lot more. I mean, when you look at the environment, like you ask, are things a lot easier for entrepreneurs? What about the electricity problem? What about transport problem? According to a survey from PwC, 21% of costs to MSMEs go into electricity. How is that sustainable? Are we talking about ease of doing business when I still have to spend 21% of my cost on electricity, about 15% on rent? Then I also have to spend on some other things. So at the end of the day, the profit margin keeps shrinking. PEBEC is doing what they could do. The Office of the Price President, they are doing their bit, but I think they can do a lot more. Let's look at the environment. Things are not, I mean, generally, the lot of the entrepreneurs are not so well improved. There's still a lot that can be done.
A lot that can be done. So sometimes when I look at it that way, I like to look at some specifics. What intentional policies do you think really needs to be instituted for us to at least be able to, to build up capacity for our MSMEs? What about establishing hubs? Someone was talking about that at a particular time. Can you take us through what that means and what positives we have in that?
Yeah, I've always been an advocate of having hubs like that. And then when I mean hubs for MSMEs, it means you have like a cluster. You have like probably, let's say, the whole of Ikosiketu, for instance, where we are right now. You create a hub for MSMEs where you have power 24 hours. You have all the infrastructure that they need to do their business. So they don't have to look outside. I think government has something like that in Ikeja, and Ike something for fashion designers. So can we have big hubs in different locations where people have access to power, they have access to every other thing that will make life a lot easier for them. They have access to transporting their goods and service from one place to another. So I think that would work, having hubs that where all the factors of production or most of the factors of production are readily available and are affordable. I think that's one of the policies that could be in place. And I also think the regulatory environment has to be more friendly. We have regulators like NAFDAC, SON, the likes of FRS and the other people. But when those names come, when you hear those names, what comes to your mind? I want to be able to register my product with NAFDAC without going through a tout. I want to be sure of how much I'm expected to pay to NAFDAC, to FRS, to SON, and everything without having to go. So when the regulatory environment is suitable and friendly, MSMEs will thrive. So we talked about ops, we talked about the regulatory environment. Then we also need to have policies that support capacity development. We cannot overflow capacity development. What is our policy when it comes to empowering people? Yeah, I know there was a policy that higher institutions should have entrepreneurial centers and what have you, but how well are we implementing this? How well have we factored entrepreneurship into our curriculum in school? How well are we ensuring that the environment that where people are going to trade, where they are going to do, where they're going to offer their services are actually very conducive for them to do their businesses. So those are very, very important.
Now, I'm back to the CBN.
Okay.
I still remember some other policies, outside funds and all of that, which is actually a key role of the central bank. Now, during the year too, I think last year something, the LDR, that's loan to deposit ratio,
yes,
that was also a good one. And also, even the Finance Act.
Yeah, even though it's really not totally from CBN. Yeah, LDR, wonderful, because that made banks to lend more to MSMEs. I mean, it was a very good one that you are now saying your loan to deposit rate must be this, you must push it up. So the banks are forced to, because there's a report, still the PwC report that says the MSMEs have a funding deficit of over 600 billion. And the funny thing is that this 600 billion is less than 3% of the total lending from banks. So that means that the MSME could not even get the 3% that they need. So that means there's something they are not doing right? Apart from the fact that MSMEs are not keeping their books and what have you.
Yeah.
So the LDR forced them to lend more to MSMEs. Good one. Then the Finance Act, of course, I mean, it has actually brought a lot of comfort because if you are within a particular band, you don't have to pay company income tax. If you're doing below 25 million, you don't have to pay company income tax. And then, of course, there are some other policies here and there. There is reduction in tariff rate for some things, for some goods and services. So I think it's a good one. It's a good one. CAMA 2022 is wonderful. It allows you a lot of flexibility in running and formalizing your business. So good stuff, but we want to see more of those things.
As we move on in 2021, we see the second wave of COVID-19. We've seen vaccines being distributed. Even Nigeria, we've started inoculating people and all of that. Governors and everybody have been, and even Lagos. I think Lagos has come out with the schedule of how it's going to happen down here. What kind of recovery do you see for MSMEs? What kind of pickup do you see? Because we expect that things should start to get back. When they say get back to normal, I don't think we'll start to hug each other. We'll start to, without our mask. No, we should still follow those protocols. But at least to a point where we can run businesses and everybody can just live a good life. What's your projection for MSME space with regards to all of these challenges and moving on in the year?
Yeah, I actually see the MSME sector thriving. Yeah, and I'm not just trying to make people happy. I see the sector thriving because now, anyone that could withstand what we withstood from March last year till now and is still standing has a lot to do. I believe that the future is bright for MSMEs because now you know that some things are not death sentences. Now you also know that some costs are not necessary. That big office space, you probably don't need it because you've been working virtually. So you are able to reduce your cost. And then I also see MSMEs driving a lot of their operations with technology now. You can do a lot with technology. Everybody is talking about Flutterwave, about Paystack. You see what they are doing with technology. So I see MSMEs latching onto technology to improve their lot. So that would just be a very good one for them. I see them reduce their costs because now they know that they can actually do a lot of things without having physical offices, without incurring a lot of costs. So I also want to believe that government will come to the aid of MSMEs by providing enabling environment. We're not saying come and play. We're saying provide environment. So I don't want government to come and become a competitor to MSMEs or any player. Provide environment, give me electricity, don't strangle me with your regulation. Just provide the environment.
Levies.
Nigerians are resilient people. We love entrepreneurship. Even people that have 9 to 5, they still have they still have what they do by the side. We now have a gig economy, side hustle. We have gig economy where people just want to do a lot of. So we are very productive people. We are resilient people. We keep growing. And so give us a good environment, give us electricity, give us everything, we will thrive. Because now we are ready to leverage technology, we are ready to cut down our costs. Because now we find out that some costs are not necessary, and we are really cutting them down.
Some are saying that let me allow you. You wanted to let me allow you.
So I just want to say I think the MSME sector will thrive. I see that happening.
Okay, but some are saying that we should at this time focus on some sectors. Maybe those are the very productive sectors for this time, like you mentioned, technology, fashion, manufacturing, agribusiness. Some people say these are the main drivers of the MSME sector at this time. I don't know if you also share that sentiment.
I agree, especially agri sector. We came out of recession surprisingly after the last quarter, right? Because agriculture contributed a lot to our GDP. So I see the agricultural sector thriving. I see sectors like logistics, sectors like telecoms, the fintechs, all the tech sectors, fintech, whatever we drive by tech now will actually thrive. So I just want MSMEs to pay a lot of attention to those sectors that are thriving and see how they can play. You might not be able to play directly. You can invest in those sectors. You can also leverage those sectors to improve on what you're doing. So some sectors are actually no-go areas, while some sectors are thriving right before our eyes, logistics, delivery, telecoms, fintech, and what have you. Those sectors are thriving. And I would implore MSMEs to actually see what they can do in those sectors.
Let's wrap up on this note. We've talked about capital, and we talked about CBN and all of it. What other means or ways you think MSMEs can raise capital, you know, and what funding types do we also have, maybe?
Okay, great. I mean, that's a very, very germane question. Every MSME thinks they have a capital problem, they have a funding problem. Even when you are trying to provide capacity development, they will tell you that's not what we need. Exactly. Everybody says they need money. Great. So to raise capital, there are actually a lot of ways to raise capital. I mean, I'm sure somebody is wondering, why is it that these tech guys are getting all the capital, they are getting all the funding? Because everyone is hoping to fund. The VCs, the angel investors, and the other people, they are willing to fund anything they can see on paper would thrive. And so one way to get capital is drive your business with technology, because that sector has a lot of focus, right? Then at the same time, you need to start thinking, you need to shelve this mentality of, I want to own my business 100%. Because when the VCs are coming, they want to take a part of your business, right? So I would rather own 10% of a big business than own 100%, and I'm struggling to fund it. So let's be open to equity funding, apart from just loan, right? Equity funding is there, angel investors are there. You can also get loan from friends and family, from people that trust you. But of course, your character matters, your competence matters, your track record matters. So there are actually funds, I believe, but when your books are not in proper shape, also it's a problem. We had a dialogue sometimes last year, and one of the players is the chairman of the Credit Bureau Association of Nigeria, was talking about the fact that people are not credit worthy. So before I give you money, either as a loan or equity or funding, whatever, I want to see how well you have behaved when you got that loan of 50,000 naira. So when your records are not good, when your character it's questionable, you will not get funding. So improve on those things, drive your business with tech, be open to ceding some part of ownership, and I think we can always get funding when we do all those things.
I think that's a good way to leave it. Founder, MSMEs Africa, Mr. Seye Olurotimi, I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
Insights into all of this that has to do with MSMEs. I totally agree. That's the engine room of every economy.
It is.
And Nigeria must take advantage of it.
Thank you so very much.
We expect to have you again on the show.
I'll be more than glad.
All right then. Well,